Okay, thank you for having me this morning. My name is Amy Zeigler, and I am the Senior Director of Hershey Gardens, the Hershey Story Museum, and Hershey Community Archives. And those, along with Hershey Theater, are all programs of the MS Hershey Foundation. So I'm giving you an update on the gardens, but if you have questions about the other things, I will answer them as best I can. We'll get started. So our big announcement at Hershey Gardens this year is that we are building onto the conservatory a new area called the Rose Garden Pavilion. We are very excited. If you've been to Hershey Gardens, it's going to be about the same size as the current educational horticultural wing across from the Butterfly Atrium. Just a quick background on the gardens. In 1936, Milton Hershey asked for a nice garden of roses for his community, and the next year, a 3.5-acre garden of roses opened. There were about 12,000 roses back then of 450 different varieties. Over the next few years, trees and shrubs and perennials and annual programs were added, and then finally in 1942, the gardens expanded to 23 acres, which is what it is now, the public-facing side of things anyway. The gardeners who have to plow and mow all the other stuff would tell you it's a lot bigger. And that was really the last major addition to the gardens. Lots of theme gardens and things like that were added, but as far as size and building went, that was kind of the last time. So in early 2010s, we were really looking into what we could do to expand programming at the gardens throughout the year, because prior to 2016, we had to close for 2 months out of the year. And we didn't really want to have to do that because frankly, the gardens are beautiful all year long. I am a huge proponent of taking a walk in the winter, which I'll get to a little bit later. But we really, in earnest, started thinking, what can we do to make the gardens better for everyone year-round? So we opened the conservatory in 2016. That was a big, big deal because not only did it provide indoor space, but it included a 12-month out of the year tropical butterfly atrium, which is one of our biggest attractions. You can see we went from 114,000 visitors in 2015 to almost 190,000 this past year, which is pretty amazing and something that we hoped would grow but had no idea it would get quite that big, which is why we need to add on to the building. So if you've been in the conservatory, has everybody been in the conservatory before? Okay, so this photo on the top is looking kind of towards Hotel Hershey, and you'll see on the right-hand end of the conservatory is a tent. And that tent will go up late March and come down early November. And it's great as long as it's not windy and blowing the flaps into your tables and exhibits and programs. If it's not lightning, because no one's allowed in the metal frame tent when it's lightning, so if you have a summer storm, it's kind of a problem. And it's expensive. You have to pay to put it up, take it down, clean it, replace the panels, which crack all the time because they're opening and closing. So it's really kind of a pain to maintain. And we really do some things in the winter that require extra space. So below that photograph is a rendering of the new building. And these kind of large windows will open fully so that a lot of people like the outdoor element of the tent. So when you're in this new structure, it'll sort of have a lot of outdoor, space. So we're very excited about that because then in January we can close it up and do things inside. This is a rendering of what it will look like outside. So currently, if you go to the end of the educational horticulture wing, there's this little section that has a couple of bathrooms and a little kitchenette that caterers use. That's actually going to be another sort of entrance from the gardens. So if school groups are using that space, they can just go straight into it. We don't have to run 65 kids through the welcome pavilion on a busy day. If you're attending a wedding at the gazebo and you're going to a reception, you can just enter this space separately. So that is that. I'll give you a little more information about those stained glass windows in a moment, but that's kind of how it's going to look when it's finished. It's really going to help us expand educational programming. So we do a lot of really interesting programs with kids. This is just a quick look at some of those. It's going to basically double our space. So we'll be able to have somewhat larger groups at one time, but also being able to have kids come in the winter will be a big boon. And schools do like to come when it's nice outside, but we're hopeful that the addition of some really important programs that fit with curriculum is going to help that too. And I do like to always mention that we do have a Share the Garden Scholarship Fund, which helps financially challenged schools. Any district where 75% or more of their students are eligible for free or reduced price lunches under the National School Lunch Program get to come for free, and if they need help with busing, we can also cover part or all of that as well. We do have a lot of collaboration at the Gardens for the new pavilion and in general, so I always like to make a note that we are well supported by the Hershey entities. And in fact, the new Rose Garden Pavilion, the naming sponsor is going to be Hershey Entertainment and Resorts. So we're very thankful that they're providing that assistance. And I'm not hitting you up for money. If you're interested, we are doing a capital campaign for this project. So any and all donations are welcome. And that's as far as I'll go with that. So we did take a little bit of inspiration from the Hotel Hershey. Excuse my grainy photo, but I'm sure you've all seen the stained glass windows in the circular. And there's lots of stained glass throughout buildings in Hershey, and we really like that and wanted to sort of punch up the idea of roses in the Rose Garden Pavilion. So we'll have these transoms over each set of doors on each side of the building that will include stained glass roses. And this is just an AI generated image that we used for presentation purposes. They have not been designed yet, but those will be a sponsorship opportunity, but also really beautiful in the new space. And we also have these tulip lights. There'll be a centerpiece. We want out parts of this new space to sort of represent the gardens and nature, and so we have these beautiful tulip pendants that's going to be kind of a showstopper centerpiece in that space as well. Any questions about that?
I'm just curious if you've seen our stained glass windows here at Dairy Church up in our library.
Not close up. I would love to sometime though.
I'll take
Yeah.
them up.
Yeah, I'll check those out. Any other questions?
Do you talk just a little bit about like how far the Share the Gardens reaches? Like, I mean, there's some really heartwarming stories about.
Oh yeah. So we do the same thing at the museum as well. It's called Share the Story. And we raise money so that students from all these schools that have 75% or more kids getting reduced or free lunches can come. Just in Harrisburg, Lancaster, Lebanon, Reading, and Steel High, there is a huge amount of students that use it. I will say some of our biggest users are from Reading, which we love. We get lots of schools from Reading that travel here. We are somewhat limited by distance because it's very hard for schools to get buses that can travel and get them back in time, for the end of the school day or whenever they need to get back. So we typically draw from those regions, but we get, once schools don't believe us when we tell them that they can do it. So we had almost a hard time getting it started in 2010 and then the gardens in 2012 because they just couldn't believe they could come for free, which is really, really amazing. And we have great stories. One child from Lebanon walked up to our executive director one day and said, "Mister, I saw a cow on my way here." Like, he was in 3rd grade and had never seen a cow in person because he never leaves Lebanon. He lives in his little neighborhood and that's where he goes. So it's really great and we love them, and it's, I feel really happy that we're able to do that. And we've also, I will mention, because realizing that we have an admission fee and the museum and the gardens are not always accessible to everyone that we would like to come, we also are both members of a program called Museums for All. So anyone who has receives SNAP benefits and has one of those EBT cards to use at the grocery store, they can show that card and their family can come in for free. And that gets very heavily used at the gardens, which we love. So.
Do you have a lunch space for the kids if they bring a lunch?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of picnic tables at the gardens, and when it rains, we have something called the Garden Cottage, which is the original admission building and gift shop space. They can go there, but this new space will actually be a huge help because on busy days when we've got, 60 kids that need to eat lunch, we won't have to use up the Ed Hort wing, which we like to have available for guests. We can put them in the new pavilion, so it'll be really, really nice to have a covered lunch space for them. We don't like to make them eat in the rain.
Most of them can't or it's gonna be over their lunch hour by the time?
Yes, almost all of them eat lunch with us, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
You ever do programs in conjunction with the zoo, where they come to the garden in the morning and to the zoo in the afternoon?
Yes, we do that frequently. The museum as well, they'll do both places. And we also work with the zoo to come to the gardens and do programs there. So we have something called Marvelous Mondays, which is most Mondays during the summer. We'll have programming come into the gardens for like preschool age kids, and it's free with admission, so it's a really great deal. And a lot of people will buy memberships just to come to Museum Mondays. And usually one of those Mondays is a zoo program. So we have a good relationship. Yes?
You when you were showing the building renderings, talked about the fact that the entrance for the new area
Mm-hmm.
is replacing the kitchens. So have the kitchens been removed? Or
No.
there's
Oh,
this-
actually, let me go back to that. So currently there's restrooms, in this sort of section.
Yeah.
Those are gonna be moved, and they're only single restrooms. We're gonna have group restrooms back at the far end of the Rose Garden Pavilion. And right here is a loading dock. So there's like a loading dock right here, a small kitchenette that they'll kind of go through with tables and chairs, and then they can load in that way. And we'll also have more table and chair storage in that space, which is amazing for us because currently, whenever we have events, the caterers load in through the basement and have to come up the steps. And when you're moving big tables and carts, we get lots of wall damage and things like that. So we're very happy that they will be able to just come in right there, do their thing and leave. Also, I should mention, there's going to be a turnaround kind of back here. So school students come in through the back of the gardens, and currently there's buses, and they pull up to a certain space, they drop their kids off, and they have to back down the hill, and do a big 3-point turn to get out. But we're actually putting in a turnaround so that when buses come, it'll be much easier and safer for children as well. So that's part of this project. Yeah. Yes.
Could you comment on what it takes to maintain the gardens and the personnel that it takes to maintain the gardens?
Yes, it's a lot of work. We have right now a gardening staff that's I want to say 5 full-time people. We're down 1, so we're looking to hire a new full-time gardener, and a whole slew of part-time gardeners that come in, and they don't work all year, so they stop in December, the seasonal ones, and then come back in early March. And that's probably another, I want to say 5 or 6 people. So that's just the outside of the gardens. And so they handle all of the mowing and the weeding and the annuals, the mums, the tulips, the roses. Rose care is a huge part of what we do. It takes a lot of time. And then we also have 2 full-time people who operate the butterfly atrium, and then a bunch of part-time people who do actually work in the atrium, guiding guests around and taking care of all of our animals, because in addition to butterflies, we have a selection of frogs, some lizards, some snakes, a couple tarantulas, 3 tarantulas, lots of Madagascar hissing cockroaches, and fun things like that. So that's another group. Then we have, and I don't know how they do it, we have 3 full-time people who operate all of our school programs and public programs. So they do over 6,000 school children every year come through the gardens. They also are in charge of things like Pumpkin Palooza, Bugorama, Christmas Tree Showcase. Whenever we have an art exhibit, they're organizing that. So they have a huge job. And the calendar at the gardens is always full, and I'm always amazed at what they get accomplished with what they've got. So it seems big, but they have a lot going on. And then I should mention there's front desk staff and retail staff, and we have a person who does kind of all administrative tasks at the gardens, who is, I don't know what we would do without her, because she's way more organized than I am. She's a big help, so.
And then your
Oh,
volunteers.
and volunteers, sorry, I was gonna say that at the end. So we do have horticulture volunteers, so every Wednesday morning, we have a big group of people who love to garden, and they come in, and whatever needs to be done that day, they will help with. So typically they deadhead roses, and if you want to know how our roses stay looking so beautiful all the time, it's because every almost week and a half they are completely deadheaded, and so they can keep blooming for a really long time. They also will help plant tulip bulbs, plant mums. You know, that's a huge endeavor, and we could never really do any of that without volunteers, because we would just have to have so many people on staff, and it's just a really labor-intensive thing. We also use volunteers to help in the butterfly atrium, so they'll work the doors. We have to have a person at the entrance and exit door to help keep butterflies from escaping. And so we use, some people come in to volunteer for that. We have volunteers for school programs. We have people who come in and help do crafts for Pumpkin Palooza and things like that, Bugorama. So it's a pretty big, I don't have a number, but I just heard the amount of hours that our volunteers did last year for across the foundation, and it's astonishing how much people in the community really support the foundation. So we're very thankful for that. And if you would like to volunteer, let me know.
Amy,
Yes.
you want to touch on the hoop house and the connection with COVID?
Oh, yeah. So we do have the hoop house, which was our old butterfly house when it was outdoors prior to 2016. And when we moved the butterflies inside, because it's in the children's garden, we decided to use it to teach kids mostly how to garden kind of on a small scale, and just how to garden. One of our biggest programs for schools is called Green Thumbs. And so we actually have students come in and plant seeds. And then throughout the school year, our program staff will take photos and send it to the teacher so they can see how things are growing. And whenever that's harvested, it goes to Cocoa Packs, which is a group that provides food to children in need in Derry Township schools. And I think this past summer we donated over 800 pounds, which is pretty awesome. So every week they take a huge load of produce over there, and that's really fun. And every school that plants gets assigned so that people who come to visit the gardens know who is actually doing all the work. And then in the summer we have volunteers, because we like to start them young, and those are kids age, I think, 12 to 15. I think they can start at 12. And they are in charge of kind of harvesting produce in the hoop house. That's one of their jobs. So, yeah. We also have a zoo cart they help to work at, which is all those fun creatures I told you about in the butterfly atrium. We have a cart, and we'll take some of them out into the conservatory so that people can see them up close and sometimes handle them depending on the animal. So, and then, whoops, oh, I went backwards. Let me to where I was. This is a project timeline, very general for the new pavilion. We'll be selecting a contractor in the spring, and by then we'll have kind of a final schedule of when exactly everything is happening. Groundbreaking is probably going to be October. We have weddings. I think September 27th is the last one, and nobody wanted to have to call that bride and tell her to move her date. So we're gonna probably break ground in October, but they'll be doing some site work and things ahead of that, I imagine. And our goal is to be open by September 2026, but it would be really great to be open before September and in the summer. So keep an eye out for that. For those of you who like to attend Music in the Gardens, there is a very large terrace in front of the pavilion. So even though the tent pad is going away, we will still have a space for musicians to perform. So we're going to be doing Music in the Gardens. And I think we're going to actually do 3 this coming summer. So 1 more than we've been doing in the past. I know people would like it every week. Sometimes it's a little hard with all the concerts down the hill, competing for sound, but those dates are to come. This is just a quick list of some things that are happening at the gardens in the next few months. I talked about seeing the gardens in the winter. We do winter walks every Saturday over the winter, unless the snow is too bad or things are icy. But Ray Barbin is a biologist who volunteers to do this for us almost every week. And it's included with admission. You can just meet up with him. I think it's at 10 o'clock. And he'll take you on a very informative walk around the gardens, and he talks about just everything, bugs and animals and, the plants that are there. Very, very interesting. And I love going to the gardens in the winter because when there are no leaves on the trees, we have some really beautiful specimen trees, and it also opens up sight lines that you don't normally get in the summertime, so I highly recommend. And also check out the witch hazel, it's very cool in the winter. Susquehanna Orchid Society Show, as I mentioned, is our biggest winter event, so that's happening January 31st through February 2nd. If you're a member of the gardens, the afternoon of January 30th, you can go early, which I highly recommend because it gets very crowded. And this is one of the reasons I'm most excited about the pavilion, because it's a beautiful show. I mean, you just can't imagine how many different varieties of orchids there are. And they do some incredible displays that are also getting judged on a national level, so they're very good. And they have vendors, so if you want to buy orchids to take home, and we'll have tons of informational classes about how to repot, how to split, how to, all kinds of things. So that's really great. So hopefully in 2027, 26, no, 27.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. We'll be able to double the space that it's in, and then they can bring in some more vendors and things as well. So we're really excited about that because it does get a little bit cramped in there. Hershey Area Art Association is going to be doing a show and sale in February. Very excited about this one. The Philadelphia Society of Botanical Illustrators is coming. If you've ever been to the Philadelphia Flower Show, there's a whole section on botanical illustrations. Those are the people that are going to be exhibiting here. So that's going to be really beautiful. We have the Rhododendron Society and Susquehanna Iris Society. They are typically here on a busy day, like Mother's Day weekend, when we don't have a lot of space for them in the conservatory, so we end up having to put them at the garden cottage or in the education building. So hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to put them right in the conservatory with the extra space. We will be having Manada Conservancy lectures, and we just bought, for the new space, a giant screen that you can see from the moon. And so that'll make those much easier to do without having to put up a temporary screen and things like that. We'll have kids' theater performances, and as I mentioned, music in the gardens is coming back. Just some general updates for the gardens. If you're familiar with the ornamental grass garden that used to be located sort of behind the children's garden, we made the decision to remove that and replace it with a census garden. And I see just as many adults as kids in that space, kind of touching plants and smelling things. And so that's been really fun. There's a photo of this board that our horticulturalist put together that allows kids to sort of touch different kinds of natural things. And it's looking really good in this picture. By the end of the summer, we had to replace all of those things probably 3 times, so it's well loved, which is good. So that's been a really great thing. There's a solar-powered fountain. We did keep some of the largest ornamental grasses, so those are still in there. There's little magnifying glasses and a mailbox full of things that kids can look at. And they're actually encouraged to touch the plants in this area, which they're not encouraged to do other places, so that's fun. And so far, they've been only touching them there, it seems like, so we like that. We also have, so if you look out, when you walk out into the gardens, you see the gazebo straight ahead, and then to the left, there has been an arbor bench located there since the gardens opened in 1937. We've heard lots of stories about Milton Hershey liking to sit there when he was visiting, and it was rebuilt by Milton Hershey School students 30 some years ago probably. So in 2023, we actually worked with their Department of Construction, the students, and they totally rebuilt it for us because it was really needed some repairs. And then we were looking, and since we built the conservatory and you walk into the gardens from that direction, which you never did before, we realized that it looked very uneven. So we put another arbor bench on the other side, so your vista is much more symmetrical, which I think makes everyone feel better. So we worked with the school once again, and they built us another one, which was really wonderful. So we have some great partnerships with Milton Hershey School up there. The Japanese pond has been very low for several years, and this past summer was completely empty because every time we put water in it, it all went somewhere. So we had a company come in this fall, and they repaired all of the cracks in the pond. They actually had to jackhammer some stuff out, put in rebar, and pour new concrete. So it was a huge project. Then they coated it with some pond coating. I don't know what it is, but I hope it works. And so that part was done. And there's also a small pond above it with like a stream that feeds into the big one. The whole thing was cleaned and recoated and repaired. And then in the spring, they're putting a bog filter in the upper pond to help with the water, keeping it cleaner and looking better. And then I'm very excited because I've been up there since 2018 and we haven't really had fish or plants in that pond since before then. And so we're gonna be filling it again with plants. Our horticulturalist is very excited and has had a plant ready to go for like 2 years. So that's gonna happen. And we're hopeful that the plants will help our fish. We have a lot of hawks in the gardens who like to eat fish. Every time we would put 1 or 2 in there, they would get snatched up. So we're hopeful that this will be a much better situation for them. And as I mentioned, we had record-breaking attendance last year for the 2nd year in a row. And we are now well over 2,000 memberships, which is also a huge record for us. So the conservatory was clearly a good thing, and we're hoping that making it even bigger will help us to grow bigger as well. So, any questions about that? Yeah.
Well, maybe not about that, but a little earlier you mentioned Pumpkin Palooza and Bugorama. Can you tell us about those programs?
Yes. So Bugorama is always I believe, Sunday after Labor Day. And we have butterflies and, as I mentioned, lots of different kinds of bugs. And we thought it would be a great way to sort of introduce people to bugs and help them maybe not get so afraid of them, because they do a lot of amazing things for the environment and they're a very important part of our world. And kids love it. I have literally seen parents run out of the room, but baby steps. So they get to stay up close. So we bring in a lot of people. We have people come from Fort Indian Town Gap to talk about fritillary butterflies. We have our own staff, which is very knowledgeable about all of the animals that we have. And we also include the frogs and the snakes and things like that as well. It's not just bugs, but we have people come in with giant millipedes. Kids get to handle our giant hissing cockroaches. So there's lots of fun. Not everyone thinks they're fun activities, but I never thought I would be able to do that. But I have held a tarantula, a scorpion, and a giant cockroach. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I just wanted to work in museums when I grew up, so this is a whole, new thing for me. And then Pumpkin Palooza is the last 2 weekends in October, and we get hundreds of pumpkins that are painted, some by our very talented staff, which means not me. And we work with Hershey High School, Bishop McDevitt, Milton Hershey Schools, Senior High, Lower Dauphin, and we might have added another school last year. And they're sort of very good art students will paint pumpkins for us as well. So we have loads of pumpkin displays throughout the gardens. We have food trucks, crafts for kids. What am I missing?
Trick or treat.
Oh, yeah, Hershey Company donates candy and kids can trick or treat at 4 different stops throughout the gardens. We have Creepy Creatures Gallery, so we bring out our snakes and things, and again, kids can hold them. So there's a lot going on. It's a super fun weekend. Kids are encouraged to come in costume. And these are not costumes like, my mom bought at Rite Aid. So these are, we all had to wear the same clown costume that she made, for us. So it's pretty amazing. They have people come family costumes, and it's really, really a lot of fun. So I love hanging out for that. And Christmas Tree Showcase is ending today, so if you haven't seen them, get up there. This year we added a Comet roller coaster car, which is Santa's sleigh when he comes to Hershey, with an 8-foot reindeer pulling it, named Comet of course. And we have 10 trees decorated by local designers, floral designers. We have a 14-foot poinsettia tree. Thank you, Tom Dates. We have a 9-foot bromeliad tree, which was new this year, so it's really, really beautiful. We had lots of musicians come in and play on weekends. We have a visit with Santa, and we have Mrs. Claus reading stories to kids a couple different weekends. And we also have, I think, 6 student trees from local elementary schools too. So that's really fun. It's a great event.
Very good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other foundation questions? Should I offer?
Can you talk?
I was gonna say, maybe share a little bit about the archives, what's gonna be,
Oh, yes.
coming together.
I did see your hand go up too. Did you have a garden question or?
No.
Okay.
One of the garden questions.
Okay, I'll come to you.
Related question, but-
You're next. So Hershey Community Archives was started in 1985 by our one and only Pam Whitenack. And they are the repository for the Hershey Company Hershey Entertainment Resorts Company, Hershey Trust Company, and the MS Hershey Foundation. We have been working closely with Milton Hershey School's Department of School History over the last couple of years because in early 2027 likely, we're gonna be co-located with the Department of School History in the lower level of the community building. So part of the renovations that they're doing now are to prepare that space for us to move in. And the great thing about that is we have very separate collections that cover different things because they focus on the school and we do not. But people who are doing research, especially with us, don't always realize that they can, there's things at the school that might be helpful to them as well. So we're gonna be located in the same place. We'll still have separate collections, but we work closely with them already and we're really excited. It will be very helpful for the museum because when we built that building, only the museum, so the museum has the three-dimensional historical collection of things related to Hershey. Archives are more informational, photographs, paper-based collections, digital records, things like that. And so the archives was in a separate building, and when we opened the museum in 2009, we moved the archives into our storage room, which wasn't the plan when it was being designed. So consequently, we have no more room because both of those collections are always growing. So we're really excited to have this opportunity to move that collection into a bigger space with lots more, have compact shelving and things like that. And then the museum will also gain all of the space left by the archives. So it's really a huge opportunity for us. We're really excited about that.
And what's that gonna do for the public as far as access?
Oh, the public will have access to both collections. Now the school, they do have a lot of student things that you're not allowed to see, obviously, because they're students. So some of their collections are not public, but you'll be able to go to one place to research every entity in Hershey, pretty much, except the medical center, but that's a Penn State thing, so they won't give us their stuff. So, but we also house a lot of community groups, so we have Rotary Records and things like that, Ronald McDonald House, Symphony, and things like that, so.
I think there'll be a place where they can see films and like.
Yes, it will include some exhibit areas highlighting important things in the collection, and there will be a cinema. So we have a treasure trove of movies, just hours and hours and hours of fun stuff. So we're putting together a really fun cinema where people can sort of select different films that they want to see. And if you've ever been in I know the swimming pool is a big thing in the community. So the swimming pool will be covered. We won't be swimming in it, but I will tell you, the entire space is getting redone. So they're keeping all of the tile, they're fixing the stained glass ceiling skylights and the windows, and replacing all of the panes at the bottom that were broken over the years and have been frosted glass for decades. They're putting up the original lights that were shaped like fish and taking down the ugly square 1970s office lights the Hershey Company put in. So that space will also at times be accessible for the public, and it's right off of where the archives is. So we're pretty excited about the opportunity to be in that building. And the fact that parts of that building are going to be open to the public, I think, is really fun and exciting.
Are they gonna make that, the original lobby a public space? Do you know?
The original lobby?
Yeah.
From time to time, I know the school is interested in doing community events and having some opportunities for people to go in there and see it. I do know they're doing a lot of restoration work in there. It's going to be gorgeous.
The swimming pool,
Mhm.
are you gonna use it?
The space?
Yeah.
Yes,
But not the pool.
but not the pool itself. Yeah,
The space.
yes. Right now, the
Because-
plan,
Because I was thinking if that's available, depending what you put in there, that'd be a great place to open it up to be a rental space for activities.
well, it's Milton Hershey School owns the building, so I'm not certain I think they are envisioning some of that. It is also going to be able to be used if we have groups come to the archives, like Founders Hall gets lots of bus groups and things like that, and school children. We are going to hopefully be using that to have group educational opportunities. I do know Hershey Community Archives is having a community scanning day, and that will be the perfect place to be holding that, eventually when we open. In the spring, there will be, I think there's 2 dates, a weekend and a weekday, where people from the community can bring Hershey-related artifacts, photographs, film, things like that, and our archivists will scan it for you. So you'll get to keep a scan, a digital scan, and the piece if you want to keep it or if you want to donate it. You know, when we need it, we will happily take it. But also, then we'll keep a scan in our collection, and it really helps us add to our collection and, you know, informational things. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Those are going to be held at the library, but eventually we would like to be able to do them in our new space. Yes.
Before the Hershey story, there was the Hershey Museum of North American Life.
Yes.
And it had a lot of interesting
Fabulous.
things in it, and I was just wondering, what happened to
What happened to all
those
the
things,
Indian
and is there a plan to eventually use them somehow, or sell them, or?
Well, when we moved into the new museum, I know, so let me give you a brief history of how things worked at the museum. So it was originally a Native American museum. We still have a collection of American Indian artifacts from all over North America. And then he purchased a large collection of Pennsylvania German artifacts. And we have those collections cataloged, and we know what that stuff is. And then over the years, people would drop things off at the museum when there were no professional museum staff working there, and they would pretty much take everything. Some of it they had records on, some of it they didn't, some of it was really broken down, some of it we had 12 other examples of in our original Pennsylvania German collection. So when we were moving to our new building, we did a process which is called deaccessioning, and that is what museums do when they remove artifacts from the collection. There are ethical rules around it, what you can do with the money, how you can dispose of things. And so a lot of those pieces that were not part of the original collections were deaccessioned. And I think there was a lot of misunderstanding in the community about the fact that we were getting rid of Milton Hershey's artifacts, which we did not do any of that. These were all things that had come over the years that were duplicates, broken, or didn't have any relation to Hershey at all. So that was that. So we have maintained those collections, and the first probably 4 or 5 years we were open, we did do exhibits that featured Pennsylvania German and Native American collections. They were not well attended. So over the years, we have focused more on doing Hershey-related things. They do get used a lot for research and things like that, so we do maintain them, and we've tried to do a lot of articles and exhibits kind of online through our website and social media highlighting those collections. I will tell you that there is something called the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which is NAGPRA for short, which you may have heard of. That was created in 1992 because a lot of museums and cultural organizations around the country had illegally obtained human remains of Native Americans, and also ceremonial and sacred artifacts that were stolen, basically. And so in 1992, the federal government, Department of the Interior, was tasked with making sure that museums who had those things were registering, were returning human remains to the appropriate group, and were exhibiting and storing them in appropriate manner. So we are registered with the Department of the Interior and have been kind of above board about all of that. We've had people contact us from different tribes and ask us questions, and we send them photos, and that's all great. At the beginning of 2024, NAGPRA was updated, and now you are not allowed to display or make available for research or even viewing any artifacts that you don't have written permission from the tribe of origin to share with the public. And that is because a lot of places had these artifacts or human remains, and they weren't sure where they came from, so they just didn't do anything with them. And understandably, Native Americans they want this to be handled, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's, the way some of these things were gotten was terrible, and it's 2025, and we should be doing better. So we are now in the process of updating inventories. Google was not a thing in 1992, so tracking things down was a lot more difficult. So we're in the process of updating these inventories, and our curator is actually going to a conference in the spring to sort of learn better how to handle all of this, but we are going to be complying with NAGPRA. I think you have 5 years to make a certain level of progress. Most of the things that we have were created for the tourist trade, and those are not considered sacred, but we are not making that decision, and we will be contacting tribes as best we can regarding our entire collection. There are a handful of things that could very well have to be given back, and that is actually, I mean, we're okay with that. We would much rather be in compliance and doing what we need to be doing as far as that goes. So we will not, we had to take everything off the website, and we had 2 things on exhibit, so we had to remove all of those. So we're kind of in limbo with the Native American collection at the moment.
So the Pennsylvania German collection is?
We still have that, yes.
Do you display it at all?
We haven't since we did those exhibits at the beginning. And we just opened a special exhibit in 2024 highlighting Bill Dearden and his contributions to the chocolate company in that space. So, you know, what we're doing after that, we don't know, so.
Thank you.
Sorry, very long answer to your very short question. Any other questions?
You might as well talk about the theater.
Well, to be fair, the theater is the one part of the foundation that I am not director of, so I will give you the information that I have, but probably not all that you want. So the theater is part of Milton Hershey School, the theater is part of the community building, which is owned by Milton Hershey School. So in 2022, when the school bought the community building from the Hershey Company, the Hershey Company carved out the theater as kind of a condominium, so it's considered a condominium now because they gave the theater to the foundation. We never owned it, we just operated it. So now we own that portion of the building, and Milton Hershey School owns the rest of the community building. Because the HVAC system is the original system that was put in 1933, it is in major need of an overhaul. And because the system in the building serves the school portion and the theater portion, and they have to fix it, the whole building is gonna have to be down for a period of time because I've been in there and the equipment is, you just can't imagine the complexity of the project that is happening to replace the HVAC. So once Pretty Woman closes at the end of January, the theater will be closing to the public until 2026. So we say about a year. We're hopeful we open at the end of 2025, but we'll see what happens. So there will be no visual differences really in the theater. You will feel more comfortable. There will be better Wi-Fi. We're still waiting on some information about replacing the seats, but they will look the same. Really everything that's happening is kind of behind the scenes. Dressing rooms are gonna be updated, things like that. But general guests who come to the theater we're not doing anything to change the look of the theater. And I know a lot of people have said, well, you just redid a bunch of stuff, you know, in 2004, and we did, but this is not that. This is a totally separate kind of back of house structural, you know, sort of thing that we're doing.
And the building that's adjacent to the lobby.
Oh, the plan is, so far, so if anyone had been in the community building when the Hershey Company was there, there's a gymnasium. That's gonna be kind of the new main entrance to the community building. And we're right now looking at the fact that we'll be able to use that space for theater goers to enter in that lobby, get a drink, mingle a little bit before going into the show. And the reason we're gonna do that is because I don't think people always realize, but we contractually are not allowed to open the theater until 30 minutes before a show starts. So you can come an hour early, but if it's raining, you're gonna be standing in the rain for 30 minutes. So our goal is to be able to bring people into that part of the building an hour before the show, and then filter. They're going to create a door between the theater lobby and this, what is currently being called the South Lobby, to go into the Hershey Theater. So that's kind of the plan, which will hopefully make things a lot less hectic. People will already, as far as I understand, be going through magnetometers when they come in the first, you know, spot. And so once you get into the theater, you can just go into the show. So that will be a huge help. We're very excited about that.
Are there any issues with, because the theater's a historic building, you know, and I think about the grand lobby, about damage from drinks and food being used in that space or taking it into like the auditorium?
Yeah, well, we haven't really seen that. I mean, you can buy drinks currently and take them into the auditorium. You are required to have, you know, wine in a closed cup, and we do have some events in there, and it hasn't been an issue to my knowledge, so we're pretty pleased with that. People are pretty respectful, I think, and we don't have huge, like, we don't hold weddings or things in there, which is a lot harder to control. Yes.
Do any of the shows that you bring into the theater require control of cell phones for purposes of not allowing them to video the show?
In general, you're not allowed to, but we don't do anything to make it so that you can't
So if you
can't do it. You have, you know, if you get caught, you will be asked to leave. I
But the
believe.
shows have not demanded that cell phones be put into those little pockets that you can.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, I don't think we've had any.
I think you have signage and things like that as you're going in.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there other theaters that are doing that?
We went to a show in New York where we had to put it into a case.
It's a
Which
Faraday
is-
bag or something?
It
I
sort
forget
of
what it's called,
deactivates
but
it.
Yeah.
you put it in the phone, and then at the end of the show, you have to have someone unlock it for you to through the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're
You just got
really
to the-
interested in having to do that.
We just got to the clear handbags going on now.
Yeah, we're trying around the handbag. So, yeah. Anything else? Yes.
What are the hours for the garden throughout the year in the way of hours, and is it open every day to the general public?
It's a very good question. In fact, we are closed this coming Monday through Friday, so every winter immediately following the new year, because not many people are going to the gardens, we shut down for a week. Generally, there is work required to be done in the butterfly atrium that would be very disruptive to guests that's hard to do at night. So we shut down for a week, and they can replace soil and trim. Sometimes we have palms growing into the ceiling, we have to cut down and replant new ones, or you know, big projects. Right now, I know there's a lot of lights that need to be replaced using a lift. So that's all happening, and we kind of take that week to do lots of maintenance to the conservatory in general. There will be some declining trees removed, I know in the Japanese garden coming up, some small pine trees that aren't doing well. So things like that that are disruptive we'll have done this week. Then we're open for January from 9 to 4. And then the orchid show happens. We're open till 5, I think, during the orchid show. 4 again, no, just the orchid show. And then we open from 9 to 5, then from Memorial Day to Labor Day, 9 to 6, and then we're back to 9 to 5 for the rest of the year. The only days we're closed are this week in January and Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. Same for the museum, the only days we're closed are Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. And we're basically 9 to 4 in January, 9 to 5 the rest of the year.
And I would assume it's on the website.
Yes, all of that's on the website. Prices, upcoming programs,
Contributions.
you want to make contributions to the
What
pavilion.
about programming for the chocolate lab? Because you're doing new programming.
Yes, I'm not sure if that's going to continue. The chocolate lab, we just kind of did an overhaul. We got all new PowerPoints designed, and we've been trying to start to see if we could do an evening class, but hasn't been terribly well attended, so we may not be continuing that. We do have Truffles for Couples coming up, which is a Valentine's Day program in February that we've been doing since we opened, that's very popular. You go find out a little bit about Milton and Kitty Hershey, make your own truffles, it's very fun. I don't have the dates in my head, I think it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th this year. There's usually 2 classes per night, so check the event calendar for the Hershey story, and that will be going on there.
Any other new plans for the store?
Not right now. We just did, so in 2018, we did a big exhibit overhaul where we added a lot of fun digital stories about Milton Hershey. The next few years, we did a massive technology upgrade, which wasn't a huge change in the way the exhibits looked, but a very big change in the way they operated, which was much better. And then we opened the Dearden exhibit in 2024. So we don't have any big plans in 2025. We're really trying to wrap our brains around the new NAGPR regulations, which are taking up a lot of our curatorial department's time. So that's that. So we're going to focus on moving the archives and building the gardens and the theater.
Great.
Anybody else?
Just in time. Well, thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and always happy to answer questions. So feel free to get in touch if you have anything else, if you want to volunteer, if you want to make a donation, you want to buy a membership. Lots of ways to be supportive and be involved.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Amy?